Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage, and this can be another episode on the 65 Mustang. The other video just went live, so this is where it's going to pick up from there. So follow me along through the intro, and I'll be back. Alright guys, another cold morning. This is like 4 of them in a row. I gotta get some paint on this car very soon. Unfortunately, my paint's also got delayed, so I'm still waiting on it. But I do have paint under the hood, and I think that's where we're going to start. So let me flip the camera around, and we'll go from there. We'd also like to remind you that we now have a store, a merchandise store, and she has her own t-shirts, so make sure you check those out. Those will be down in the description below and on my main channel under store. So the Mustang is sitting here all night. It has dried out pretty well. I think I'm going to start this paint journey with painting under the hood. So I've got a lot of prep work still to do to get to that point. I need to get the master cylinder up a little bit. I need to get that brake line back. I need to reposition my transmission holding wire there. And we got some taping and some other stuff to do. So let's get this place opened up and get started. You stay close today, okay? Yeah. So I got the transmission repositioned. The master cylinder stood up, as you can see there. So now I need to start taping, which means I need to tape all the holes on the inside of the firewall that pass into the car. I'm going to have to find a break point somewhere in front of the door jamb to make us a tape line. And I'm going to have to split the cowl right there at that seam. So let's get to that. Daisy wants to remind everybody once again that we have a merchandise store. Check it out. So I pulled the doors down, got this car taped up. I didn't tape it all the way up, all the way back, just enough to kind of shield the overspray. At this stage, I'm not real worried about the rear half of the car maybe getting a little bit on it, but we definitely got to get this painted under here so everything's taped up as far as that goes. I generally don't like to use plastic, and today being a windy day is the point of having that. I set a couple of heavy boxes up here that were fairly clean, and I pulled the doors down and just left them barely cracked for ventilation purposes. And maybe we can get a little more heat in the shop in here. Right now it's about 58 degrees. I would like to see at least 65 to start spraying paint. So I'm going to try to warm it up in here a little bit while I clean up my little table over here and get ready to start mixing. So we're at least starting to see one color fixing to go on this car. So having the under hood painted will be a big task. Not to paint it, but it'll be a big task in the grand scheme of things. So, like I said, I got it all taped up and get everything cleaned up and mix some paint. So, I'll be back here in a moment. Boy, this temp's struggling to climb today. I've got about 59 degrees here in the shop, which is the bare minimum I'm going to ever spray paint at. And that's with a fast reducer and a fast hardener. So I'm going to give it just a little bit longer. I'm just taking my time here. So I'm going to pop open the paint and start mixing stuff. It's definitely going to increase our flash times by a significant amount, and the dry time on this, which I'm going to spray a single stage urethane under the hood. So I'm probably going to have to spray one coat, wait like 30 to 45 minutes, and then spray another. So hope it warms up soon. First coat down. I thought it was going to take a little bit longer to flash than what it did. It's actually yeah. So I need to get to mix some more paint, but first I'm going to flip around and show you where I'm at with the first coat. I went ahead and sprayed 2 on that wheel well side, which you've seen in the video. So I've got a couple places I got to go in there and make sure I hit. Spraying under the hood of a car is an extremely hard place to paint. It is tight with a big paint gun. It is hard to get in there. As you've seen, I adjusted the fan down to more of a, a round circle. And what that done was allow me to get in some of these tight places and actually put some material in there. So let me flip it around and get some more paint mixed up and get this second coat on here. Well, it's been literally 10 minutes and we're already matting out pretty good here. Get a little spot up there on the bottom side you can see. I got a little spot on the inside of the course port right there. But other than that, I got pretty decent coverage. I got to hit that because I missed it too. So it's matting out pretty good. I got a pretty good coverage on all this. It's going to be good enough. So just something to help it protect it just a little bit extra in the wheel well areas. But it's laid out pretty good in there. So let's get on that second coat. All right, and our second coat's on. I got a run up there, which would be just as good as factory, to be honest. But there's a trick, especially on a single stage like this, to get rid of a run. And I'm going to take a piece of tape. Now, I've let this paint flash a few minutes, and I'm just going to take a little bit off right there. I'm going to grab my paint gun. I'm going to hit that while it's still tacky, and that should flow out. And that's a trick you do not want to use when the paint is still wet. You want that paint to be kind of stringy, so to say. You just want to kind of dab it just lightly. Sometimes in these cases it don't completely go away and it'll leave like a little rough spot. On a color coat, it won't really matter. You wet sand and buff it. But on this, it's a single stage. Underhood of these cars, guys, was not great from the factory. There was runs, there was overspray, there was bad spots everywhere. And Ford just used whatever they had laying around, leftover paints, mixed them all together. You end up with something that was kind of black, but not really black. And that's what they sprayed under the hoods and, you know, in places that need to be black. So it's several hours later. After I untaped the car, I pushed it out there in the sun, let it cure out most of the day out there in the heat. It still never really got above about 64 degrees. And that didn't happen until about 3 o'clock. So I've got the shop shut up. I'll flip it around and show it to you. And then hopefully tomorrow we'll start spraying some other colors. Daisy's doing her kitty cat things. You come running for the camera, don't you? Huh? You excited about all them extra cat treats, aren't you? Huh? That's good. But let's show them the paint. So the paint's pretty much cured out at this point. It being a urethane, it will harden over the next few days, but it looks pretty decent. And guys, it don't take much at all to be better than a factory underhood paint job on one of these cars. And that's all I was shooting for under the hood, was better than factory. I kind of done under the hood as kind of a courtesy here, but I wasn't going to leave all that nasty red peely paint that looked like it's paint on a paintbrush on it. So let's see what tomorrow brings. Well, guys, fast forward a couple of days from where I just left off. I spent the past couple of days doing some more prep work. Some things I wasn't happy with, some things I wanted to come in here and address and make sure that they were on a level that I would put them on a daily driver quality car. So let me flip it around. I'll show you where I'm at. We gotta get this car taped up, get the front where I painted it black taped up, and then we can move on from there. Maybe we can start to see a little color today. So I've been going through and block sanding this stuff and hand sand it where needed. I had a little place on this fender I had to come in here and touch just here on this edge where I'd weld that rod in it. I wasn't real happy with how it looked. I had a couple little pinholes that I ended up going back in and re-blocking out. But I got all the edges and stuff prepped. Rear valance is blocked. The top and the bottom of the hood is sanded. The top of the hood is blocked out. It's ready to spray. I had a couple of little places that I couldn't see on the car. I had a couple of pinholes here. I had one up here. I had one over here I went in and fixed. Nobody probably would ever notice those, but I would have known they were there. A rear bumper blocked out beautifully, and it is ready to paint. So the car, I went over it again just to make sure. I didn't see any places that need to be addressed. So it should just need to be taped up and wiped down. And they're black, it dried out beautifully. It looks real good. So got all that done. And I've got her paint over here. I've never sprayed any of this Restoration Shop paint, but it has awesome reviews. They got their base clear coat system. It's going to be a Wimbledon white, which is going to be representative of this right here. I got this to do the interior with. This is a single stage matte urethane in a graphic red. And this is what we're going to paint the stripes with, which is another base coat clear coat system in the same graphic red. And also picked up 2 gallons of clear coat, all the hardener and reducer, stuff that we would need. So in an effort to save me money, I went with this. It was a little bit cheaper than buying what I usually spray on a basic job like this in a urethane. Like I said, I read the reviews. Everybody's super happy with it. I've read some long-term ones off some forums. The stuff seems to be pretty on the level. That being said, I have never sprayed this paint system before, so I don't know what kind of results to expect. So what better way than start spraying on the car? I'll probably do the bottom of the hood first, just to see how it lays out and how its properties are as far as the way things lay out. So let's get this car taped up and see where we get from there. Daisy supervising, make sure everything goes well. You still happy about your shirts? Huh? I'm gonna have to shut you out here in a little while. We don't need those paint fumes, and I don't have a respirator that's kitty cat sized. Alright guys, it's been a little while. I've got the car taped up. I've got the air hose wiped down. I stretched the air hose all the way out. I take a little thinner on a towel that I can throw away. And I clean the air hose. Wipe the air hose down all the way to the rail. I come in here last night, washed the floor out. I blew off everything up top. Any remaining dust, as long as we do not disturb it, should not move. I do have a high-powered ventilation fan over here in the wall. I'm going to make a very small gap under one of the bay doors. This is where air can circulate out. I've done tested it. You can hold the towel off to the side like this, and we got a nice suction towards an area where there's nothing at. So at this point, I am almost ready to paint. I got my paint gun prepped. I've got the paint stuff set to the side. I need to blow the car off. We need to wipe the car down. And then we're going to take a tack cloth and we're going to lightly go over the car to make sure there's not any dust. And then we'll get into mixing paint, and it is time to start laying some color. Now, I'm not going to paint all the pieces today. And a lot of the reason why I'm going to do that this way is I'm going to have to, I don't have the room to just paint all these pieces on this car apart. So in order to be able to walk around this stuff and do a good job, I'm going to do the bottom of the hood today. And we'll do the back bumper, the front valance, and the main body of the car. And tomorrow, I will push the car out. I will bring the rest of the small pieces in here. We'll flip this hood over. I'll take the bottom of it up. And we'll paint the rest of the pieces. Long as all the paint's out of the same batch, you put the same number of coats on, you should not have any color mismatch issues. It's about 73 degrees today, so temperature's in our favor. So let me flip the camera around and I'll show you where I'm at and why I've done a few things the way I've done it, and we'll go from there. So I've got the front of the car taped off, bagged. I taped back from our original tape line where I painted the black under the car. This will be a hidden line that nobody will ever see. The factory white would have traveled all the way up to this edge. The factory color would have went all the way up this edge. That would have been undercoated. That would have just been whatever it ended up being under there. So I've got the cowl taped at the bottom. Got all that stuff taped up. I taped up the dash because I do not want to overspray on it. I taped up the top of our doors because when I spray this area right here, I do not want a lot of paint buildup on this edge. And I will probably have to go in here and address that later. But I'm also going to jam this car out, try not to get any white paint on this area. I do not want a tape line in our red. I would rather our red overlap our white, but I do the inside the doors. So this is the way I'm going to do it. I've taped up our latch and our strikers because I do not want a bunch of paint buildup on that. There was a reason why I didn't take them off, and you guys know that, because it could have opened up potentially other can of worms, and all this stuff fit pretty decent anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open the doors, do the jams. I'll come in and I'll push these doors back up about like this. Then we'll come in here and spray the car. As far as trunk goes, I am going to spray the bottom of the trunk and the trunk jam, and inside the trunk area here. I'll let that tack a little bit. I will pull this trunk down, and then we'll finish the outside of the car. And all right, in order to wipe this car down, a lot of people, I would normally use a wax and grease remover. I have gotten a little extra of the reducer for the color. I'm gonna put a little bit in a clean paint cup, about like that. I'm gonna take a lint-free towel. I'm gonna saturate that towel with the reducer. I'm gonna wipe the car down from top to bottom, bottom of the hood, and all that stuff. So I'm gonna put y'all on a time-lapse mode, and then I'll be back after I get the car wiped down. Yeah, a little unconventional. But by using a reducer for the paint you're going to apply to this car, you can't get a preview if it's going to react with anything. I'm not sopping it down with it. I'm just a damp towel, using it to pick up any major stuff or stuff where I may have touched the car or, got some oily handprints on it or what have you. So let me flip around. Let me show you these 3 towels and why I do it this way. Now, keep in mind, guys, I cleaned this car from top to bottom 3 times up to this point. As you can see, all 3 of these are pretty dirty. A lot of this is a little overspray from the urethane on the thing, but the car wiped down good. I need to hit it with a tack cloth now, and then we get to mixing some paint. Now, I'll give you this. I am a huge tack cloth hater. They're not my favorite thing. I don't like the residue. If you push these things down on your paint, you will have issues. These are literally meant to grab the lightest dirt that may be sitting on top. But when you get one of these, it's a little small square. What you need to do is peel this thing open like this. What you will have is one very large piece of netting, basically. As you see, that's what this is. This is the proper way to use one of these. You don't leave it all folded up. So you're going to open it up. It's a good size, right? I'm just going to take and I'm going to bunch this up lightly until it's like a little scrub pad ball or a loofah shape. And I'm just going to take this and lightly wipe over the car. So I'll flip it around. I'll let you watch. And after you touch that thing, you're going to have to take some alcohol or some thinner or something. Wipe your hands off, because these things are nasty. They have some very nasty sticky stuff in them. They are super sticky. Do not ever leave that sitting on your car. Do not ever push down on it. Lightly drag it across the surface. If you don't, you're going to have fish eyes, guys. Tack cloths will cause a bunch of problems. They're a big help, but they can cause a myriad of paint issues if you don't use them correctly. So make sure you unfold it, make sure you make it in that loofah shape, and barely glide it along the surface of your car. So at this point, we are ready to paint. I turned the fan off over. I turn it on when I do stuff like this. That way, if I stir up any dust, it sucks it out. So the car's prepped, the bottom of the hood's prepped, the rear bumper and the front valance is prepped. So let's get this stuff sprayed. So we gotta mix some paint up first. And I'm gonna leave y'all on regular speed for this because I've not even opened the can to look at the color. I looked at the test dot that they leave on top. I always put a towel down just in case you spill any. This is not the cleanest paint mixing area. So putting a towel down will keep from stirring anything up. And now we have our first look at our color. I'm going to take a new paint stick and I'm going to wipe it off with a lint-free towel before I stick it in here. Now we have a look at what our color is going to look like. I'm going to mix this up just a little bit, where I can kind of gauge its thickness. This smells like a lot of, from the smell of it, it smells almost like a Sherwin-Williams automotive finish based product. Not sure who makes restoration shop things, but this is going to be our color. This is Wimbledon White. They make two different versions of this color, one pre-65 and one after 65. The earlier version of this color is a creamier white, and that's what this is. I did not want to spray the car with a bright white and lose a lot of our depth and reflection with it being a white car. If the car wouldn't have blocked out as well as it did, I would have went with the lighter color of it. But I think that will go just fine with the theme that we got going on. So this is going to be a little hard for me to kind of video. So I'm going to do this with the respirator off and the ventilation fan off for now. But basically what you're going to shoot for, I like to shoot about 20 PSI. You want something that you can test spray onto, like this whole piece of hood right here. As you see, it's putting out a very thin round dot. That's not what we want to spray the base coat. So I've already adjusted the flows. So I'm just going to open the fan up a little bit here. And you can see we've raised the fan a pretty good amount. And we have a pretty good coverage. If you don't have enough good coverage, you can add some more fluid here or add some more volume. It's pretty simple, guys. You're just going to adjust ring the gun on something that's scrap until you get the pattern that you want. Sometimes that little round pattern right there is good for shooting down in panels if you can't get your gun down in there. But, you know, you'll have to adjust it for the way it works for you. I'm going to say this. I am not impressed with the coverage of this paint. It looks like it lays out nice, but it don't have enough solids in it. So I'm pretty sure this spray's just like the Fourth Dimension stuff from Sherwin-Williams. So I'd say that's probably what this is, or a rebrand of it. It does not have high solids, so it does not cover well. I'm glad I got 2 gallons of this paint, because the hood's got 2 good coats on it, and I can still see through it. Yeah. I put 2 good coats on the bumper delete up here. I can still see through it. Same on the rear bumper. Not good. The good thing is it's laying out good, but you know, it's just base coat. But yeah. You know, I thought it was me just kind of missing these spots, but you can see the gray through that right there. You can see the gray in the hood scoop area. You can see little gray splotches everywhere. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little while and, you know, fully kind of cure here. And I'm gonna mix up a batch a little less hot and see how it covers. But you can see that's 2 coats, guys. You can see through it. So same with the rear bumper. You can see the gray along that edge. Now, I didn't expect it to be super high coverage, but I expect it to cover a little better, you know, on the first 2 coats than that, because that means this is probably going to be a 4 to 6 coats of base coat for coverage. That also means it's going to take about 10 times as long to get the color down, and then we got to let it flash before we can, you know, spray things like clear coat. So I got a lot of ground to cover at this point. Like I said, I didn't expect it not to cover like it is. I'm super not impressed. But it does lay out good, and if it is a Sherwin-Williams product, it will be beautiful and it will last a long time. You're just going to go through a lot more material. So if you're looking to restoration shop paints, make sure you buy about double, like I did, of what you anticipate you need. 1 gallon of base should have done everything on this car, because, you know, 1 gallon makes 2. So, or in this case, it's 2 to 1. So a gallon makes about 6 quarts sprayable. So we're going to probably end up putting 12 quarts of color on this car just to make it Wimbledon white. Well, I've been spraying paint. I finally got the bumper, the rear bumper and the bottom of the hood to cover. I finally got the trunk bottom and trunk jamb to cover. Now I'm working on the outer body. For the record, guys, I've been through 6 quarts of sprayable material at this point. This is a ridiculous amount of material. This thing hardly has any solids to it in this paint. It does not cover well. So if you want to use this brand, make sure you buy triple what you need. I bought double, and I've still got the top of the hood, still got both fenders, I still got all the small stuff sprayed. And I can guarantee you, I don't have enough material to do that. So I'm gonna have to get a 3rd gallon ordered, and hopefully get enough of this car together I can paint the stripes on it. And I can tell you now, I probably don't have enough material to paint the stripes on it, because I just got a quart of sprayable. If it covers like this does, there's not enough. No good deed goes unpunished, and this is one of them. I tried to save me some money on materials. The reviews were good on it, but nobody ever said anything about how it covered. This stuff covers like garbage, or at least this white does. White's usually one of your best covering colors that you can get, especially automotive paint. Spray paint, not so much. Automotive paint covers pretty well in white. Usually 1 to 2 coats, a base, and you're in business. I'm at 3 coats on the body. I'll flip it around and show it to you. So, you know, the main body's covered pretty good, but there's a couple of little light and dark spots that I can see that is going to have some extra attention. The cowl itself, I put about 4 coats on it. It's covered very well to the point I'm not doing it anymore. The roof is covered good. The jambs I'm not happy with. As you can see, there's a little shadow in that door right here where that gray primer spot was. I can still see it. I can still see where our little primer spot was there. I've not even sprayed the deck lid yet, guys, because I was spraying the bottom of the jamb. I just now pulled it down. Our taillight panel covered pretty well. But at this rate, I'm never going to get to spray clear coat on this car, because it's 15 to 20 minutes between coats with this base coat. I've been putting it on kind of extra heavy at this point because it's not covering, and that's the only way it seems to cover is to lay it on there. It's getting late, which means temperature's starting to drop. I don't like to let base coat dry overnight. The good thing is it's still in the 70s, but I can feel it kind of dropping temperature here in the shop. So let me mix up some more. Let's bust open this other new gallon and see if we can at least get this stuff painted. And we'll just have to figure it out from there and hope that the 3rd gallon that we order matches, because I did not expect this at all. 5 coats of base coat to get good coverage on the car. I started to spray the floors of the trunk and ended up just spraying the inner wheelhouses and hinges. I will probably just black bed line the rest of the inside of the trunk at this point, instead of just wasting material trying to cover to make something that it's not. So it's been about 30 minutes at this point since I sprayed the last coat of base. So I'm ready to spray some clear coat on it. It is getting late. It is almost dark, which means the temperature is fixing to start falling. It is 63 degrees outside and 71 in here. So let me get to mixing and get to spraying, and I'll be back here in just a moment. Well, it's been a little while, and this stuff flowed out some. I got the hood bottom. It's sprayed. Our rear bumper. Our main body turned out pretty decent. Our trunk still had a few little waves in it, I guess, but it is what it is at this point. Got a couple little runs here and there, but for the temperature and a new material, it laid out pretty decent. It'll be 1,000 times the car it ever was before. So that said, it's like 9 o'clock at night. And it is 67 degrees in here and 58 degrees outside. So I'm gonna let this sit overnight. I'll come back tomorrow. We'll see if we can get these front fenders painted and the rear valance at least. Maybe we got enough paint to spray the rest of it. I really hope. Got to flip that hood over tomorrow, paint the top side of it. I'm really hoping we got enough white. I can at least get the color down and a couple coats clear until we can get ready to paint the stripes on it. And all right, guys, it's the next day at this point. Got the bottom hood taped up. I gotta get the hood, the front fenders, and small stuff all prepped. I got the car sitting out here in the sun along with the front bumper, the lead, and the rear bumper. So I'll flip around, we'll walk around the car, and then I'll be back. So the car looks really well and buff out. I got a couple little runny spots here and there. Got the rear bumper and the front bumper delete done. The roof looks pretty good. Trunk and stuff looks real good out in the sun. Nice reflection on everything. So, moral of this story is I will be wet sanding that clear because when I add the stripes, I'll be I'll be re-clear coating the whole car. And what that means is I'm going to put the stripes inside the clear so they won't be a raised line on the car. I think it will look better that way, so that's the way I'm going to do it. So I only put 2 coats of clear on the car. I'm going to let that cure out. We'll come back in, knock down any of those little small runs. I'll get the car put back together, and when I get the car together, I'll re-clear the whole car. Once the car is re-cleared, I'll back tape everything, and then we'll paint the interior stuff ready. So I've got a lot of stuff to do, a little time to do it, so let's get started. Three coats in of the 5, and I've got about a quart of paint left. So the small parts look like they're covered pretty good. The rear valance is covered pretty good. The headlight buckets look all right. The grill bar on the bottom, it's going to have to be recoated one more time. The fenders are probably going to need 1 to 2 more coats, and the hood's at least going to need 1 to 2 more. So I'll flip around and show it to you. The small stuff covered surprisingly well. I don't know why, but it did. The headlight buckets, I wasn't real worried in here. I just wanted to dust some color. That, and on the back sides, real worried about this area here and what you can see down looking behind the grill. So they covered pretty decent. The bottom grill bar, it's going to need 1 more. The rear valance covered pretty well, looks pretty good. The fenders, I can still see some stuff through them here and there, especially from a bird's eye view. So they're at least gonna need 1 to 2 more coats. The hood, I'm sure you can see at this point. So not super impressed with the coverage. In fact, today I mixed it with absolutely almost no reducer in it. I just got it just thin enough I could spray it out of the gun. So if you're gonna paint a car, guys, get you 3 gallons of this. The paint sprays good. It just don't cover worth crap. That's bad on them. So let me let this stuff flash out for about 15-20 minutes and I'll come back and spray another coat. We'll see where we're at then. Every single bit of 2 gallons. Everything has good coverage. The hood's got good coverage. All this other stuff, I went back in the fenders and shot the edges in one more time. But this is the only time I've ever bought 2 gallons of paint that I didn't have some left over. So, yeah. Let this stuff sit about 30 minutes and then we'll blow some clear on it. But yeah, I'm fussing about paint coverage because there's no reason for it. If you're going to sell something under a name like Restoration Shop, you would think that, you would put a little extra effort into your product. So, not impressed, but it does lay down good. Like I said, the clear lays down good. So, as long as it lasts, that's all that matters. Two coats clear on. It's been about 3 minutes since I sprayed it, so it's still flowing out a little bit. So I'll flip it around. I'll show you everything. So our hood turned out pretty good. Try not to disturb it too much and let it flow the rest of the way out. Our fenders. They're still flowing out. Our rear valance. Our headlight buckets. Our end caps there, our side scoops, and our headlight rings. Try not to walk around in here too much while this is kind of curing out a little bit. It'll flow out over probably the next 10-15 minutes, maybe 20. And at that point, I'll turn that fan off. It's making all that god-awful noise in the background. And I'll move around in here a little bit more. So everything looks pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with it. So at least we still got almost a whole gallon of clear left. So probably have to get another quart of white just for backup, another quart of red, and probably an extra gallon of clear just in case. Well, it's about an hour and a half later, and I carried most of this stuff out here and set it in the sun so it could cure out a little better, because a little heat and a little sunlight is not going to hurt. But it's about 78 degrees today, so it'll just help things dry out. I gave it plenty of time to kind of flow out on its own, and I'll flip around and show you everything where we stand. I think our hood turned out rather well. Can't even tell that scoop didn't come on that hood. Yeah, it's got a little orange peel in it. That'll buff out. I've still got to add stripes to it. All that good stuff. Fenders are well without here in the sun. They're doing pretty well. Got all our little pieces here. They're all out here in the sun, drying out. So I had just enough of the white to cover everything. I will probably order an extra quart. That way he has some to have if, something happens or need touches of paint, or I may need to go back in there and touch a spot or something if I chip something, putting it back together. So it's always good to have a little extra, and usually I like it to all be out the same batch, but that didn't happen this time. So that said, guys, everything looks pretty good. I think this might be a good place to start splitting this video off. So guys, this brings us to the close of another video. There's still a bunch of paint work to do on the car. This is kind of one of those peak moments. We're almost at the top of that mountain. I've still got to reassemble the car. I've still got to paint the dash and the interior metal red. Once the car's together, we can lay out the stripes, and that'll be probably a good video too. And re-clear coat the car. And once that stuff's done and cured out, I will do a final wet sand and buff on it. Everything is laid out pretty decent. There is just a tiny bit of orange peel. There is a couple little sags and runs, and a little bit of dirt here and there in places. Unfortunately, not being in a downdraft style paint booth, this is kind of what you end up with. This is be the same as you painting the stuff at your house. You can get a good result. You just need to make sure your prep work is key. So if you like these kind of videos, make sure you hit that like button, share them with your friends, and most importantly, if you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It does help the channel grow. It helps me knock a little bit off his labor bill, and it also keeps you updated on this project. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys and look forward to your comments down below. So until the next video, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.